set on carbon so that we use the forest carbon not as an offset for business as usual, but eventually, as in the case of Ethiopia, it has to become a larger sink. We have to become carbon negative, and forests are part of that solution.
Given the severity of the risk, environmentalists are advising that natural capital should be addressed at the board level and valued and managed in the same way as financial capital. Environmentalists are also warning that businesses cannot continue to take natural assets for granted, and an urgent change in mindset is needed. Businesses risk facing water shortages and scarcity of raw materials, which will disrupt the supply chain and make them vulnerable to price volatility. Businesses are now being urged to consider their dependencies and impacts on critical natural resources ecosystems with a view to managing or mitigating these impacts.
How do we frame economic performance? Does it include sustainability? And this is at the root of the green economy, because the green economy asks a very simple question. Is the economy producing value, jobs, income, wealth at the same time? Is it increasing overall wealth, or is it eroding wealth? Is it creating liabilities? Is it creating risks? Is it creating streams of, how can I put it, toxic waste that then need to be cleaned up that erode our very basis of prosperity? So that's the fundamental question around green economy, and I think that's our point of departure today. Look at our economy, look at our individual economies. Are they producing jobs, wealth, income, or are they also producing liabilities? Contaminated water, contaminated air, contaminated land. And these are very real questions.
Understanding this analysis is of particular relevance to multinational companies with extensive supply chains in emerging markets, especially in regions already facing shortages, air pollution issues, and the like. Environmental impact hotspots often lie outside of a company's direct operations, falling under the control of suppliers or further down the value chain.
Issues about the environment is always, in Nigeria, is always two sides. When you speak about the environment, the first thing somebody talks to you about is the oil companies, because they are seen as the people who contribute worse to damage to our environment. But that is really not true. But from the perspective of oil spills, yes, that may be true for what we physically see at the Niger Delta. But also don't forget that environmental issues or environmental degradation issues is not limited to oil spill and the Niger Delta. In the north is deforestation and desertification. People are not talking much about some of these things. Even in the southwest, like in Lagos State, there's increasing flooding and some of the drainage being blocked, and then these are also environmental issues. But coming to your question, the links between natural capital, for example, now and operators in the oil and gas industry, yes, there is no way they won't be involved. They just have to understand why some of us are trying to push this in Nigeria. We need to protect our environment. If our natural capital, including forest, our land resources, our soil, our fishes in the rivers, they all need to be protected. And if their operations, as a result, is causing environmental externalities, then we should be able to sit down at the same table and discuss it. Laws are not meant to punish people. They are just meant to make people to do things the right way. There is a NOSDRA amendment bill that is also being sponsored by Senator Bukola Saraki. This has been in the National Assembly for close to 2 years now. We've not been able to go beyond second reading stage, and also because of lobbyists are coming. A lot of people are trying to see this natural capital initiative is going to tie into the NOSDRA amendment bill as well in some extent, because as long as we want to preserve and conserve our environment in the Niger Delta area, then the NOSDRA amendment bill becomes relevant. It also has wide and far-reaching implications to other parts of Nigeria as well.
For most companies, aside from agriculture and a few other primary industries like forestry and extractive type industries, the natural capital under direct company control is typically a tiny fraction of that under their indirect influence. The impacts on natural capital come largely, therefore, from a company simply using the resources it needs to run its business. Understanding the impact of commercial decisions is where companies need to become better informed in order that the consequences of actions can be better managed. As a result, all companies will benefit from measuring their impact on natural capital more effectively. In doing so, they will better understand which impact and which natural resources and services are strategically important to their businesses in the short and long term, and so able to focus on them.
I think for companies that are really understand that, and they understand where their consumers are coming from and where their consumer pressure is, they're already recognizing that being a first mover in this is going to be just because they will be the people who've worked out the economic models, sourced a sustainable supply, can be authentic when it comes to their products, and have probably got a recycling component in the whole design of them, which enables them to really reduce waste and save money. And so there are some really bright people really thinking about the whole supply chain, which I think will drive the sustainable forestry a very long way. We just want those to be sort of a lot of fast followers coming in behind them to really make the difference.
It is clear that over time, companies will make radical changes to their environmental accounting for resource along their entire value chain. Companies that embrace natural capital accounting are to come to grips earlier with the major challenges and opportunities of the 21st century.
And in renewables, the picture is dramatic. I mean, 10 years ago, you had north-south trade and north-north trade, more than 2/3 in renewables. And today, that's reversed. So that means that countries are becoming empowered with regard to renewable energy technology. And the amount of investment that's flowing into renewables, I think, is in itself very encouraging. 10 years ago, it was under 40 billion. Now it's well over $200 billion a year, and the capacity is increasing every year. So to me, there are success stories that can be brought out. Another one that I would share with you are if I can call them the green markets, which are, again, related to sustainable consumption and production. Fish. The fish market is over $100 billion a year are traded. When you have consumers who are interested in the sustainability of the fish stocks and what they're eating, that's a huge opportunity. Ecotourism, one of the fastest growing areas in global GDP is tourism. So there's a number of areas where we're seeing some concrete advances, and I think we can report on those, and actually they're tangible. They're financial flows that are moving into the opportunities. The one last thing, this is again framing. The green economy will happen either by design or by default, and it will happen because the Earth is becoming contaminated. The Earth is becoming contaminated, so basically we'll have to clean it up. Either we'll do it by design and we'll clean up beforehand, or we'll contaminate and then all the flows it'll be a reactive green economy. And that's a bit what we're seeing with the environmental goods and services industry, which is growing much faster than the overall economy.
If you look at the markets now, for the last year or so, people were raising money again. Charles has mentioned the green bond phenomenon. And so I think we are seeing sort of positive innovation. The issue, obviously, is it at a scale enough? No. Is it fast enough? No. And is it distributed enough, particularly into developing countries? So I think there are still challenges, but there's no doubt that we have the potential to raise the funds. And one big area which I would suggest we need to focus our attention would be energy efficiency financing. We talk a lot about renewables, very important, but the biggest area of financial flows needs to go into energy efficiency in buildings, in industry, and transport. And that's where probably we need to focus a lot of our efforts now, I would suggest.
Since Rio Plus 20, 68 countries have supported a communique which calls on governments, the United Nations system, international financial institutions, and other international organizations to strengthen the implementation of natural capital accounting. In April 2013, more than 35 ministers, vice ministers, and senior officials of finance, development, and environment came together for a high-level ministerial dialogue on natural capital accounting. They were part of a larger group of more than 60 countries, the first movers of natural capital accounting, who were sharing technical know-how and the setup of institutions needed to move the agenda forward. That's our program for the week. Thank you for being a part of it. God willing, we'll be back with you next week. But before then, should you have any comment or question, our inbox, earthfile@channelstv.com, is always available. From me, Ayola Kasim, and the rest of the team, it's bye for now.